And, nothing I tell you today is like going to be 100% of the time. There's going to be some stuff on there that's a little different, but some of this will get you where you need to be. So if I know this is the image, right? How do I know that the blue one is the original image? No, blue doesn't mean original. No. Now that explains a lot, Logan. Say it again. Somebody might have said it. I couldn't hear. Yeah, so it's the markings. Remember, what in the world? Hold on. There we go. So the markings tell you the original and the final.
That's not the right question.
Yeah. No, we're not. I'm not. That's not a question. I'm just reviewing it. Yeah. So
Just talking to talk.
if you have two images, the original image is the one without the little tick marks, the prime mark. So the original would be the blue, and then it was moved on the one that has those little tick marks. Or if they have totally different letters, which does happen sometimes, they'll tell you which image was moved onto which image. Because remember, these are called rigid transformations. The size and shape doesn't change. So that means that if we were like flipping this, turning it, sliding it, whatever, eventually it would land exactly on top of that. They'd be the same exact shape. You wouldn't even be able to tell that there's two images on there, because one would be exactly on top of the other. So there's some way to do that. So what this problem is doing, instead of you creating the second image, they're giving you the second image, and you're supposed to like say, okay, well, how did I get there? Did I translate it? Did I reflect it? Like what was the transformation, or sometimes it's two transformations that got me to land on top of that.
Recollect.
So first question is it a translation? Could it be a translation? Why not? They look like the same image, right? That image looks like if I just slid it and be on top of it, right? Why is it not a translation?
Top down.
What? So here's your first, and this is the easiest part of it. If I slide it, H better match up with H. Well, it doesn't. That's not H. That's F. So sliding it, even though it would put this image on top of that image, it doesn't work because the letters also have to match up. So make sure you remember that. Now, sometimes it's easier to see that than others. Like in this case, it's a little tougher to see that. You have to look at the letters. But some shapes, there's only one way where points can match up. You'll see what I'm talking about. But again, letters have to match letters when you do whatever transformations you're doing. So just translating that would not work. What about reflecting it? Would reflecting it work? And again, we're in this one, we're saying there's only one transformation. Would reflecting it work? Like, even if I thought about flipping it over a line that was diagonal, right? Because that'd be the only way. Like reflecting it left definitely doesn't work. Reflecting it up definitely doesn't work. So we can kind of ignore those. So would reflecting it over that line work? How would you figure that out? Like, give me one point that you should know. Well, yeah, that doesn't work because this point wouldn't be in the right. Like, all you gotta do is find one point. It doesn't work in that one. So if I reflected, I just kind of quickly drew in that. So if I reflect over J, right? So again, I'd kind of go this direction. J is going to be like somewhere in there, right? I mean, you could do that with any point, really. You could see it doesn't match up. F, I'd pick one closest to the line. If I reflect F, it's going to be like right there. Well, clearly that's not where F is. F is way down here. So again, a reflection, hopefully you're seeing that, yeah, that doesn't work. So here's your process, if you will. No, there's no great process. Sometimes you just got to figure some of these out for the translation or for the transformations, especially when it's two. Just always start with translation. So can I slide it? Which will rarely be the first thing you do. So maybe start with reflections. Can I reflect it and get to where I want to be? Well, no, I can't. Even if I reflected it and then slid it, that wouldn't work either, because if I reflect this up, G is still going to be over here, right? Well, if I slide that down, G is not going to land on G. So even a reflection and the second transformation, like a slide, doesn't work either. So sometimes they will say what two transformations will get you the map on top of the other image. So once you've done those two, once you've really tried to figure out, can I do this with a reflection and or a translation? If you can't figure a way out, then you go to rotations. Then use that as your last attempt to figure out whether or not you can hold that thought. Actually, tell it, we're not even, I was going to do something, but we'll just go into the other. All right. So again, try reflections first to see if that will get you to map on top of the other image. If it says two transformations, I would try reflection and then a translation to see if that works. Sometimes a reflection and a reflection will work. So keep that in mind. Oh. We were just there a second.
Just get a black people.
It wasn't even like you transported from there to there. So I mean, I was just because you were actually trying to figure this out. It looked like I was watching you and you're trying to figure it out. And then the next time I look up, you're standing around. Either you're super, super fast or you transported.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's colored.
I was gonna ask you, whatever, finish talking to them, if I can.
I'm not gonna. They got a lot of stuff that they got to go over. They got a quiz on Thursday.
All right.
You got a quiz tomorrow.
Johnny,
No, well, yeah.
All right, so so again, with that in mind, reflection first. If it's two transformations, try a reflection and a translation. If that doesn't work, try a reflection and another reflection. Because remember, we can reflect left and right, but we can also reflect up and down. So sometimes if you go right and then down or some combination like that, that will work sometimes also. All right, so now let's go to this. All right, so this is kind of that process. I don't know if this is going to work or not. Yeah. So if we have, so again, we have a shape here and a shape here, and they want to know what transformation would get me to map on top of that shape. So that would be C, B, A. So they give us the two shapes. Again, think about a reflection first, and we'll say it's just one. So here's your process. I'm going to go through it one time with you. This is what you'll do in a minute. Although we got to get to doing two transformations. If I actually, we'll also try two transformations on this one. I'll show you a little bit. If I reflect this, which ways could I reflect it? What are my two options? Most likely, we're not going to really, when we're doing composition, we're not going to really reflect it over a number. And we're going to just use X and Y axis. So we could reflect it down, which would be over the X, right? I can reflect it down over the X. Well, that's not a bad idea because here's the second point C, which is like the final image C. Well, that would get me right here, right? If I reflected this blue triangle, blue point C over the X, it'd be right there, which actually kind of could line up if I then reflected it or slid it left. But can that work?
No.
What would be wrong with where would the point B reflect? It'd still be on the right side, correct? It'd be over here somewhere. 1, 2. So again, if I reflect it over X, I count down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it would be down there, right? So that would be B. And my line of reflection, oh, here, let's do this. I'll highlight it so it's easier to see. So that's my line of reflection right there. So I flipped down over that line of reflection. I don't think this is in your book, so just watch. You have some you're going to practice on. If I slide those 2 points, are they going to match up? If I just slid them, so let's go ahead and let me go ahead and finish. So A would be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that's where the A would be. So now, if I slid those 3 points, is that triangle, that blue triangle, I got a lot of stuff going on now. Is that blue triangle going to match up with this red triangle? So sliding it doesn't work, right? Sliding doesn't work. So I can't do a reflection over the X and then a slide. Now flipping it would work. Because again, A would match up with A. B, oh, I say it would work. I should count first, I guess. B is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 away. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 away. C is 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So doing a reflection and another reflection would work, right? So that's what I meant. Sometimes if it's 2 transformations, reflection and reflection will be one that they use for sure. Now here's the next thing I'm going to tell you though. This is actually done in 1 transformation. There's a 1 transformation move, which can't be a reflection, can't be a slide. So this is sort of a review of what you're going to do from the packet that I gave you. Remember about rotations. So a rotation, I think this is already set up. Well, it's not, I'll fix it. If I rotated that, right, I spin the whole graph around the origin. If I spin that whole graph, it lands right on top of it. So if you do a reflection over the X and a reflection over the Y, it's actually the same thing as a 180-degree rotation. So if you want to just memorize that, you just memorize that. If you remember how we did a rotation where we spin the whole graph, then we would write the new points. So whatever the original points were, that image is still there. When we rotate it, we would say, well, that would be where our new image would be after a 180-degree rotation. So you write your new points down. So you'd say, okay, well, this is -1, -2, -3, -4, comma, -1. All the points will be negative, by the way, if you're in this quadrant. All the points up here are positive. So I really don't even have to worry about which ones are negative and positive. They're all negative. So this is -1, 1, 2, 3. And this is what? -7, -4. So those are the 3. So this is a review of rotation.
So the district will ask questions exactly like the fact.
We'll get to those in some. This is sort of a review of rotation of anything right now. I'm introducing the composite, but we're going to do a lot more with composite. So if I rotate that twice, then write the ordered pairs down. Then your process, if you're creating it, is, unless I just say, what are the ordered pairs, then you're done. You just give me those. But if I said to draw it, you would rotate it back. So again, this wouldn't be here if you were drawing it, right? You'd be creating that. So that wouldn't be there. Now, after you rotate it and wrote those down, because that's where the image should be, where we just had it a second ago, now you can just write those ordered pairs in, and you'll get the image where it should be. So that's a little bit of a review of the way we did it before. So that's how you would create it from scratch if you had to do a rotation. You rotate it first, wherever, however many times, this is 2. 90 degrees, it would be 1, and then either left or right, depending on whether it was clockwise or counterclockwise. 270 would be 3, or you could go 1 in the opposite direction. Write down those ordered pairs, because that's where the new image will land. Some people were getting confused thinking that you were turning the original. It was still the original. You have to imagine that the original doesn't move, that it's still there. So the original, you have to imagine is staying there. When you're turning it, you're creating the new image. That is the new image. So somebody was confused by that, but you just got to practice. Let's see. So here again, quickly, same thing. If I rotated this image 90 degrees, counterclockwise, which direction would it turn? What's counterclockwise?
Back.
Well, there's no left, right for that. Counterclockwise. Look at the clock. The opposite of that right hand. Clockwise follows the red hand. Counterclockwise goes in the opposite direction. Counterclockwise then is that direction. That's counterclockwise right there. So if you don't understand that, I don't know how you're going to do the. So if I rotated that 90 degrees, I would say, well, this is the original image. So I would take my paper. I think this is already set up. I would turn it counterclockwise 1/4. That's 90 degrees.
And then another 90 would be 180.
Well, that didn't work because I apparently grabbed the wrong image. Or actually, it's not. I don't think it's.
You have to go counterclockwise.
Well, no, I turned it, but the image wasn't glued. Yeah, see, I'm turning the wrong image. I need to turn the one in the back somehow. Let's see if I can do this.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, hold on. Let's send that to the back.
Oh, no.
There, that should be. Now, yeah, there we go. Now it's at the top. All right. So now I turn that. I turned all of them.
Bro, there's no.
Well, that's where it would be right there. We'll just do it. So, all right. You guys are going to get on the wrong side of Mr. Gill. I can tell it already. Clearly, most of you have this down, right? We're already really close to the point where you have no chance this quarter. Because some of you didn't do that retake, the 27-27. I'll tell you right now, retaking proofs may not help you a lot because that one was tough. So that may not go up. You might already have 3 grades that you're just dealing with at this point that aren't particularly good. And most of you aren't going to be doing an hour of tutoring to do retakes when you get 40s. So those are never going to go up. So if you care at all, you need to start focusing in this class. That would be your new image. Not new, your image. So the other one, again, you have to imagine the pre-image is still there. Because when you rotate the graph, obviously the image is going to turn. It's not still the original. You have to understand that is now the final image. Even though there's nothing there, you have to imagine the pre-image is still there. So this would be the final. You have to imagine the pre-image is still over there. Write down the ordered pairs. What is that? 6, 2.
For the original?
9, -2. Well, now this is the final. Remember, we turned it. The original was there. It's still there. We just, obviously, if we turn the page, we can't keep it there. This is where the original will move to. So that'd be 9, -2, and 8, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you turn it back to where the original started. And then, well, I'm turning it back because I want to get it back to where it started. This is your final image, those points. So you would now draw in those points. I didn't write all 4 of them, but you'll see they would match up. 6, -2, 6, -2. 9, -2, 9, -2, 8, -4, 8, -4. Like that's how you draw. You turn it first, write down all the ordered pairs for where it should end up, then turn it back and just put those points on the graph when you wrote them out. That's a little bit of review. That doesn't really have to do with what we're doing today, but all right. So that's doing rotations. I think the reflections, hopefully you have that process. You draw in the dark line of reflection and then you move the point on the opposite side, same distance away. All right. So now look at page. So here's the new stuff. Look at page 241, example 1. You don't understand what?
Why are we in work this today?
Because we haven't even done anything with Composite. Like none. I mean, they might have had one easy question, but pretty much everything on there is from the more complex stuff that we haven't even gotten into. Hard to explain because the district told us to skip this in chapter 2, which now I think is a mistake, but that's what they told us to do, so we did it. All right, so let's see. Example 1. Oh, shoot, that's way back. Just gonna take a minute. So on example 1, you can go ahead and be looking at it. What they're doing is they are doing 2 transformations. So they've already kind of done it. They've already kind of done it for you. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, the step. So again, you would just be looking at that top section in bold. You can read through the whole problem and just fill in what they should be able to figure it out. They've already done it for you. So figure out which points go where while I'm finding the pages, and I'll explain what you just did. Well, there we go. Fine. Oh, no, we didn't. Nope. There it is. All right. So here's the problem in the book. 41. So really quickly, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but there's this thing called a glide reflection. All a glide reflection is it's 2 transformations. One of them is a translation. So they wrote translation there, and then one of them is a reflection. The specific special thing about why they, instead of just calling it a reflection and a translation, they call it this word. When it translates, it's only going left or right, like when it slides, it's only going left or right or only going up and down. It doesn't go diagonal. So that's all this word means, is it only slides either left or right or straight up and down. It doesn't slide diagonally in any way. Other than that, it's just a reflection and a translation. Oh, it looks like they didn't do the second piece of that, guess. So if the original has points at, so this is the original, the blue. So they've already done, I guess, the translation. They want you to do the reflection. So first of all, what are the points for the translations? What does this mean? You do need to know that. A little bit of all this is really review right now. Left 4. But what does that mean? What's that terminology, that notation mean? If they say vector -4, 0. So what does it mean? So that's our instructions on how far to move it. That's what that vector thing is. Yeah, negative means left, and then positive would mean right if it's the x. What about if it was a negative y? A 0 means we're not going to move it, but down, so positive y would be up. Or we could just add, remember, we can just add these to those numbers. Don't forget about that option. I could just say, and that's pretty easy in this one because 0 added to all of these just means they're going to stay the same. So those don't change at all if I'm just adding 0 to them. So all I'm really doing, and you have calculators, so -4 plus 1 is -3. -4 plus 2 is -2. -4 plus 4 is 0. So if you look at that new triangle, those points would match up. R is at 0, +2. So there's 0, +2. What's that one? Q is at -2, 5. Well, there's -2, 5. And then P would be at -3, 1. Well, there's -3, 1. So don't forget about that addition thing, because sometimes that's the easiest way to do it. Now we have to do the reflection. So here's what a composition transformation is. It just means you're doing 2 transformations to get to your final image. So this is like the middle transformation, which we're now going to take that and reflect it down over the x. But your final answer is going to be whatever we wind up with down here. That's not an answer. That just, you need that to get to the final. So I don't care if you leave it on my quiz, just understand your final answer is 2 images. Your pre-image and then wherever your final goes, which for us will be down there. So on the district stuff, I don't know if that's going to be super important, but on my stuff, I really don't care if you leave. I just need to know which one your final is. So if you have 3 images, the first one, your second one, like which would be that one, and then a third one, you need to tell me which one is the final. No, it's computer. Yeah, it's ABCD on the computer, like the other ones that you said.
Okay, so
I don't know if it's all multiple choice, like, or if you maybe have to input some stuff that I don't know. I have a copy of it. I can look at it. All right. So anyway, now let's go ahead and wrap this one up. I want you to try to do the reflection then. So you are now, again, this is your first transformation, the translation. You need to try to do this part with that, like maroon, I think is the color that would be called. So reflect that down over the x. That's really just practice or review. Just you need to make sure you remember a composition transformation is 2 transfer. It could be more than 2, but I think they only make you do 2 in the standards. You shouldn't have to be more than 2. I'll give you a minute to finish that, and then we'll move into the ones that are a little trickier. Yeah, remember when you do a composition, it's like you're doing steps. You don't go back to the original to do the second transformation.
Okay.
You use whatever you after the first step and you made that first transformation, you use that one to then do the second transformation. Don't ever go back to the original to do the second transformation. That's what some kids were confused about earlier. Let's see if I can zoom in. Yeah. I can't really show the ordered pairs, but we'll write them up and you can copy them down. So what's our first step when we do reflections? You didn't write this process down before. Here's the last chance to write it down before quiz. Yeah, we make the line of reflection really dark, right? So if it's the x-axis, that's pretty simple, and we know where that is. If it's y equals a number, that is also a horizontal line, so don't forget that. If it's x equals a number, that's a vertical line, but the x and the y-axis you should know. So now I just write a point on the opposite side of that, the same distance away. So if that's 1 away, then I need a point 1 away. If that one is 2 away, so R was 2 away, well, then I need a point 2 away on the other side. And Q is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's my new image, which in this particular problem is the final image. And that you can erase, you can leave on there, but you need to make sure you make the notation to show me this is the answer. This is your final image. So this really should be the P prime. I think they sometimes put 2 primes if they leave the image on there. So they put your second image would have 1 prime. Your final image would have 2 little prime marks on it.
So do we have to do that in the district?
I think the district is your, selecting multiple choice.
Oh, okay.
For mine, though, yeah, you got to show me either you need to erase this and only have one other image with the prime marks, or if you want to leave it, that's fine. Just make sure you put 1 and then make sure you put 2 on the second one. I will take off. Again, I won't take off ton for just that, but it's a simple thing. No reason to miss it. It's an easy thing to get right. So that's what's called a composition transformation. It's just 2 transformations back to back on the same graph, and you do the second transformation from the image that you did the first transformation on. So again, we don't go back to the original and do the second transformation. We use the second image we had created to create the third one. Any questions on that? All right. Now, the ones that are a little trickier are the one, and at least I think so. I mean, that's just doing 2 transformations. You should be able to do that. If you can do 1 transformation, you can do 2. Doesn't matter if it's rotations, reflections, whatever. Here are what a lot of the questions said, though. This is the reason. If that was all you had to do on the district, I would have still had the quiz today, but it's not. We have to do stuff like, I think it's on that page. You can do that one on your own if you want later. That's just, again, doing 2 transformations. We are not going to get into stuff where it's not on a coordinate plane, but you might see some problems where it's just an image. Not right now. I want to show you the next one. You might see an image with no coordinate plane, and they're just like doing something to it a couple of times like this. Like here, there's no coordinate plane. They're just moving the image. I'm not going to get into all of that stuff. I'm not going to worry about that. So yeah, none of that. Again, you could see some stuff that we're not going to cover. All right, here's where we need to focus, because this actually leads also into the next lesson for triangles. So they're going to give you a graph, and they're going to give you 2 images. One of them will be the original. One of them will be the final. Now, you notice there's not the same letters in there. Otherwise, you won't go anywhere. They will tell you if they don't have the same letters in the prime marks. They'll tell you which one's the original. And they do that right here. So if you read what it says to the left of the graph, it says ABC can be mapped onto DEF. That means ABC is the original, and you're moving it onto DEF. So original onto the final. So here's what you have to do on the district. This is again why I didn't do split screen. You got to tell me what two transformations would I do in order to get to that image. Remember, this is the same exact size and shape as that. There's some way I can manipulate this, and in this case it's twice, and land it right on top of that. So the process is you just got to try different stuff. Now, if it's on the district test, you're going to most likely, I think this would be a multiple choice, just do the ones they tell you. Like there's going to be 4 of them. They'll give you, say, well, it's a translation, and then they'll give you the number to use, how far, and then a reflection over X. Well, just do that translation. So take the original image, do that translation, do the reflection, and see if it lands on top of the image. If it doesn't, then that's the wrong answer. One of the 4 choices should work and land right on top of it. So you don't need to guess and come up with it on your own for the district. Now, for mine, you would. So I'm just going to kind of use what Nazir said. He said, well, it's just a translation and a reflection. Because, if I slide that over and reflect it, it kind of looks sort of like that might work. So think it through. So if I slide that over, what's going to be like, does that change? Does that do anything if I slide it to the right? Doesn't, right? So C is going to be up here, B is going to be there, A is going to be there. But here's the problem. I slide it over, it's still going to look like that, right?
That's what you got to flip.
So if I flip that, is that going to match up? It's not, right? So that's the process you go through. You're just going to do the transformations. If you can see it really quickly in your head, then you know how to draw it out. I slid it over. I can see. Now this would match up. The bottom part would land on the bottom part there, the top part, however you want to call it. But unfortunately, this line here isn't going to land over there, which is where it needs to be. So a translation and reflection doesn't work. Not like that, at least. So I could translate it down.
That's all.
But then the problem with that is that'll be down there. That'll be up there. Now, if I reflect it over again, this part's not going to land on that part. So again, didn't work. So again, remember I told you the process. Always start with translations and reflections because they're pretty easy to see, right? I can tell. Now, when we don't get those, I'm thinking, all right, rotation's got to be in there somewhere. Right? So now we try to do the rotation. It's a little tricky to do when I'm in the smart or not in the smart notebook. So we're just going to try. If I rotate this around in general, so I would rotate, how far would I need to rotate it? Yeah, because I know for sure a 180 rotation gets me from this quadrant here to this quadrant. So I know that immediately, which gets me to the correct quadrant. Although if I was going to do a translation, it wouldn't even really matter that much. So if I rotate it all the way around, it would, like, can you figure out where it would be? I can't spin.
No, it wouldn't match up.
It wouldn't match up, but remember, we get 2 transformations. So it doesn't have to match up. It doesn't have to land exactly on top of it. I just need it to be in the same orientation. Like the left side would need to look like this. The top would need to look like that. The right side would need to look like that. It would. Now, if you can see it, if I rotate this twice, this right side would, I'm just not even putting it in the right spot, but the right side would become the bottom. So it would be something like this. That's going to become the top. So I think here, maybe something like that. I think I did it too long. I think it's supposed to be shorter.
Supposed to be 4, not 5.
Yeah, I counted 5. You're right. So again, if you just kind of sketch it in, 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, the main thing is the right side now rotates once to the bottom rotates once to the left, this angled side
Is that 90?
kind of becomes the top. And then 90 will always match up. So that would be the B. I don't even really need to know which image maps on the which. The 90 just needs to match up with the 90. So now if I rotate it one more time, what's going to happen?
Right.
So bottom becomes the left. So it would be straight up and down somewhere, right? Left becomes the top. And the top kind of becomes that right. Well, yeah, that matches up. So what's my final transformation I would need then? I don't even know if that's in the right spot. Then you would just slide it on top of it. And you can slide in any direction. It didn't even have to line up like that. It could have been diagonal. It was just that glide reflection that has to go straight left and right. A translation can go in any direction normally.
So all we have to do is it should be in multiples, so we don't have to worry about the word.
Yeah, no. Well, no, I don't know what's on the. I mean, actually, I do know what's on it, but I'm not going to worry about. We can't go through everything. There's no way.
Clockwise.
And now 180 degrees doesn't matter what direction, by the way. I've said that. So remember, if it's 180, you could go counterclockwise, clockwise, because 2 turns to the right gets you here. 2 turns to the left still gets you here. It's going to be in the same spot. So if it's 180 degrees, direction doesn't matter. I don't think they'll try to trick. They'll just probably say 180 degrees. But just know it doesn't. So go ahead. You can fill in if you want those real quick. I'm not super worried about whether you have the blanks filled in. If you understand that process, try reflections and translations first. If that doesn't work, then now sometimes, and I'll tell you, this is actually one of those times, a reflection and a reflection actually works in this. Because remember, we said a 180-degree rotation is the same as a reflection and a reflection. It just wouldn't be over the X and the Y axis. If I reflected this down, it would look like this, right? If I then reflected it over, I think you have to do like 1.5 or something like that.
What?
If I reflected it again over the 1.5, X is 1.5, that's, well, you wouldn't even need to. It lands right on top of it if it's, because this is
What?
1, 2, 3.5 away, right? If this is my line of reflection at 1.5, that's 1, 2, 3.5. Well, there's my half, 1, 2, 3.5. So those points actually wind up matching if you reflect again over X equals 1.5. So just remember, a rotation of 180 degrees winds up being the same as 2 reflections. 1 reflection up and down, 1 reflection left and right. So that may or may not come in handy. But if you can go through that process, reflection first, reflection and translation, and then lastly, you try to figure out if it's a rotation. And then maybe the rotation. You could have a rotation and a reflection. Keep that in mind. That's one that they could put in there. That's probably the most difficult one to try to visualize is when they do those two. Any questions on that? All right, try to do, I think there was a check problem for that, right? Oh wait, I'm looking wrong here. Oh, you're right, there's not one. All right. So here's the problems from this particular lesson then. No, right? I mean, they're already written up in this, so just put this back up. Yeah, let me write to pass out. We did more problems in the other class. Make sure let me just make sure I'm not. Oh, this is actually one from the. That one. We did that one from the book. Hold on, I will let you go, Nick, but I'll write it while. questions. Oh, I'm sorry. Just go back to page 242. It's the check problem at the bottom. You're creating the everything. You're creating the original image. You're doing two transformations. It'll tell you which one in there to get to the final image. So 242, do that check at the problem or at the bottom. We skipped that. That's why we're. Again, 242, the check problem. You're creating the transformation. It tells you what two transformations mean. That's, I don't know exactly what I'm going to put on mine, but there will definitely be at least one problem where I give you something about composition transformations. If I only give you one, it'll be that you have to create it. So something like this, like what you're doing right now. It's possible I might give you one where you have to create it and one where you have to figure out what transformations would map an image on top of another. There's gonna be at least one of mine, maybe two. We'll see. I'm gonna try to keep it to certainly no more than 8 problems on mine. Maybe.
Wait, Mr. Gill,
Yep.
hold on. Will there be another question from another, on past field? Like, you know how you said.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you have the one question that's a lot of people got that one right. Oh, that's good. But yeah, I'm gonna put that question, the distance between a point and a line on there also. That's like your free retake without having to go to student. If you notice in focus, I broke that out as its own separate grade. It was worth 2 points. So some of you got 2 points on it, so you don't really need to do it. You don't want to do it. It's like I gave you, now I will not give you the graph though on this quiz. You'll have to create the graph. But it's like when I had a line drawn, there was a point not on the line, and you had to figure out the distance between that point and the line. So again, if you did well on that, you don't really even have to do it. Some people got the full 2 points on it already. Some people did it. So it's up to you how hard you want to study for that one question. We'll do that in a second. What? Oh, that's weird. I hear a lot of chatting. I hope you're working while you're chatting. Yep. I don't know it. So if you don't have it.
Okay, put it up.
Or you don't know it. I read Oreo before I read that. Again, it's not that I don't like them, I just don't. Like it. Oh, yeah.
Where is the Oreo?
Oh,
This is
word.
like kind of.
You know, it depends. Are they frozen?
No,
Do I have milk?
no.
Yes.
Don't worry. Oh.
I probably would. If I didn't have any milk, if they were not frozen, probably would. Because when you bite into them and they're really soft and then you have crumbles and smushes and all that. Easier to. If they were frozen, then no, not.
Why not?
Great.
Give us good reason. Give us,
Because they stay together. They stay together. Fine, if you might just.
actually, what I'm sorry.
And one of the answers is I normally put the whole thing on.
Exactly, that's. Wait, have you forgot it not to wear freedom?
Not to cheat. Not to cheat.
Like the rent flavor.
No, but I love their commercials. That's not to cheat.
How about the,
Yeah, that's fine.
I have had to lose it.
okay, no, yes.
Like when
Okay. You that's it.
How do you get this?
Why would you do that to the chin? That's cool. Do you do that?
Oh, I do that sometimes.
Yeah.
But again, that's not.
It's normal.
But that's not taking it off. That's just like.
Getting the flavor on.
What I think is more important is.
Yeah, that's it, keeps the hard for. So give her a way.
I was so like, what are you looking at?
No, there are a lot of people. who do that.
There are a lot of people that do that.
There.
You're gonna say,
Now that we've settled that, we are not doing anything with symmetry at all in this class. I don't think that it's on. It might be on the district test.
Ready for you.
But it's not supposed to be on the EOC, so I'm not gonna worry about it. If you happen to get a question about symmetry, symmetry just means the left side is equal to the right side, or the top side is equal to the bottom side. So I'll show you just really quickly in a picture. Symmetry would be like this. If you have a four-leaf clover and it's a perfectly symmetrical, you have symmetry left and right. So there's symmetry if you fold it over, it'll land on top of itself. Or there's symmetry up and down. If I fold, yeah,
Can I stay here in the next class and do my test?
you need to go get a pass and come back. And don't tell them I'm making you do it. You need to see if they're okay with it, because I can't call people out in class. So that has symmetry. Actually, it doesn't have symmetry up and down technically, because I didn't draw it very well. If you roll this up, those don't really land on top of those perfectly. So that one would only have symmetry left and right, not really up and down. Sometimes it has both. So that's all I'm doing with symmetry. Like I said, it's I don't believe it's tested.
Where's the practice, bro? Do we have practice today or no?
Yeah, I mean that's all of. You got a bunch of practice time left. So you should be practicing. I gave you a packet. That's good for practice. If you didn't practice that yesterday,
I'm finished.
you have these problems. Where do I like it?
What the?
Those problems right there from today's lesson. Yeah, let me write Miles a pass for that. So again, this is from today's lesson. That's what you know how to do.
Look,
Well, that's, they didn't give you a graph, so I'll give you a graph.
I'm so low.
They just didn't give you a graph.
So we're basically doing the same thing you've been doing. There's two of them in the same problem.
The main difference is that you better be able to do. Just do muscles. That really. When they give you two, one more thing. I forgot one thing. Refocus. They have a lot of stuff about the rules on the quiz. So, for example, they give you a picture and they say, although that's not a great one, let's go to a different one. Pictures on any of these? Goodness gracious. Need two pictures. Everything okay. Here. So they tell you this. And they say, okay, here's your two pictures. And they ask you I don't know if they ask you for the, hold on, I don't know if they ask you for the transformation or what, but one of the ones I remember seeing is, so they say if you have an X and a Y, and these are your images, and we'll say you go from this image to that image. It asks you what is the rule for that transformation. So you have to fill in what happens to the X and the Y over here. It's actually super easy. Again, not having ever seen it, it's difficult. It's like, what the heck are they talking about? All you do is you write down all the ordered pairs. So just write down the red pair is what? -5, 7.
5, 7, -7, 4.
-7, +4. And -3, +1, right?
Yeah.
Now write the new pairs down. So now we have, well, +1, 3. And write it next to the ordered pairs that it matches with. Well, what's that? 4, 7. So that one. And what is that? So 7, 5. So now what happened? Now you just figure out what happened. So the X values moved, right? If that was originally, they moved. So X and Y, I'm sorry. So they moved, and then what else happened?
Switched to -5.
Yeah, and then this first sign, which was the X, flipped. So that's all you got to do. Just write all the ordered pairs down, the original and the final, and then just figure out what happened between the ordered pairs. That should not be super difficult. The other stuff is harder. So that's your first step.
Clockwise, so I go, I go back here, and then I go.
Something learned on traffic.
Look up there, and look for me.
Are you back in?
And it'll rotate. Yeah, he rotates.
But I know, but it's clockwise, so I do have to rotate it back and then this way.
Again,
Then this way.
like that, so.
Yeah, right. I do know that.
That's not there.
I know that's not there, but I'm just saying.
Loser plus liar.
What's it tell you to do?
Go.
Big liar.
Okay, well, I'm just adding my information.
So how many times you rotated?
You're a liar. Every quote you posted the lie.
Oh. Damn.
What are you talking about?
She's delusional on a man that's not.
No. I rotated it. Oh, God, I think my That's right, you made it fine. Now you're not.
This is the left side.
It's like.
Now you guys in the same way.
That's what you're doing. So again, that was your original. So right here, what are here?
No, I ain't
Now
got
you
that shit like that. I'll never be. I get Dylan and Nick.
Yeah.
That's me.
That's
Yeah,
only.
we went right.
I'm Dylan. Nah,
Why are you scared?
I'm like, fuck that heat.
Positive. Negative 3.
One.
Negative.
She needs professional. She needs therapy. You're mad. Get off your phone.
Whoa.
Why are you going to What's in your lap?
So now it's rotated back.
I'm just honest.
Like even though it was, and you draw using.
Get up your
each point.
Please, how I put my new.
That's right.
You know, it's here like.
Because you told me that's where you do, right? You know, that's what those are.
It's the lion.
Hey, no problem.
Not even off my phone.
Hey, no problem.
Answer girl.
Here's-
Can I get like the
What
little
the
after you just said?
Why do you do that?
Oh.
I thought that that you keep playing, but I've been going to them all day. He hit me in the back of the head with his book. Just wait till the class ends. You know, I throw a calculator at
Right, so yeah, when you draw, like, just use those two, you'll see.
It's just not the one I just took.
I haven't, they're all graded, I haven't put those in yet. Hopefully I'll get them in tonight.
Did I do that?
Mr. Gill.
That's very good.
He's lighter than I. What are the Gill?
What?
Are you the speaker? No.
I just put the. Oh, I know.
Have a charger.
Yeah, no, I just put the practice problems up. They were up. Yes, I did.
You want to play Big Around the Road?
What were the problem numbers? Those of you that paid attention. Which probably know.
The page that mock right there, whatever page that is.
Well, it was up, so I can't help it that nobody pays attention.
I just
Charger on the table.
Where is it though?
You know, you put it up.
I totally put it up. I said it's these right here. These are today's. What were they? 245, 1 through 8, or something like that. Oh, I totally put it up. You guys are just not good. Well, you don't lie. You just don't pay attention.
I'm not being able to find it.
Bro, I'm
Exactly.
Right there. Yeah, it was up. It was after stuff.
Can I get a graphic?
You guys don't pay attention.
Can I get a graphic?
That was not it.
No, we did. Come on, first. No, you got me today. Let go. Let go. Let go. Let go. You know what it is. You know how you cheat.
I'll just throw my shoe at them.
Oh yeah, graph paper.
I've been here since 8.
There. You'll need at least 1 page. You can grab one and put it down on the desk if you want.
Y'all gonna get it. Y'all get it. I don't want to get it.
Because they didn't give you any graph paper for the first page for some reason.
You said.
Oh, I didn't grade it. Wait, we're putting.
I'll get the phone.
I didn't grade it. That's not a big mistake.
Why you talking?
Hey.
Yeah.
How do you know that?
But I know that. I need to talk about it. Look, I'm How do you?
Hey.
No.
Oh, he's a little special. Oh,
Mr. Gill, can I check my notes? I want to read it.
You missed my.
you're a hater, Nick. You're such a hater.
How do you miss my time?
You're on the
Not my time.
All 5 times.
You're a hater and a liar.
I was standing here the whole time and you couldn't hit me. I'm not even
A
moving.
hater.
I'm gonna leave
I can show you on.
And I was sitting here the whole time and she missed 5 times. And she was right here. I'm lying?
Those are
So
massive.
you did just hit me with the story? You missed me 5 times. Happy 5 today. Okay, that's cap. Just put the game right there. Nah, I got it on here.
Not correct.
I hear what you said.
So again, this was kind of the same thing, that was factor. What is this, negative 18?
Actually, one thing.
Oh, 9 and 2 numbers, 6 and 3 you can use, but then you gotta figure out how do I use that with the factors of 4. You gotta, I told you to figure out just plus numbers. Right, 2x plus 2x right now, and just see if when you multiply it out, I give you negative 18. It's just takes way too long trying to like figure out where it's supposed to stuff. Yeah, I know you guys do that all, and I get it. Like, I want to get it right. You know, the first time plug it in, do the math. It doesn't take long.
Okay.
Can I see that?
She's the reason I favorite.
So if there's okay, you decide. So I know I'm doing something right. Everybody always.
I started this is the original right? And translation along to
Hey, black guy,
so
wake
that'll
up.
be the X.
Let me in rest.
So when
Black
I'm
guy.
going up, well, wait a minute, no.
Turn
It said translation. Sorry. Yeah, so you're just adding it. You could add 2 to every X, you're not adding anything to the Y's. So basically visually what would happen if I add 2 to every X and I don't do it? If I add 2 to the x, that goes to 3, that goes to 8, that goes to the x. I mean, that's good.
No, it's if we have the same.
All I have to do.
He's a.
Think about what happens to one thing. At this point, it's raining. And 2 to the x. So instead of being -3, it's -1. You just move.
That's so bad for a second, and then that means like
All that
everyone
happens.
starts turning on days.
I didn't know. I was getting confused.
Up or down.
Wait, so keep like.
Miles is out right now.
Get out the door. Not.
Get the door.
Yeah, get out the door.
Shadows.
Have you just been sitting there waiting
I
like
think so.
how long doing?
Like,
Yeah.
that's
Look,
the.
look at the
Like, I
cake.
or- I need to.
And she's like, it's kind of hot in here.
Yeah, that's like probably the like I said.
No, none of that was. I mean, I guess some of it was reviewed, but that was a new lesson that we didn't cover that I saw was on the district. Most of it's not super. I mean, you're pretty good visually, so I don't think it'll be a huge issue. But you do want to make sure you do the ones where they give you 2 images and you figure out, okay, what. And normally it'll be 2 transformations. Sometimes it could be 1. What either 1 or 2 transformations would take me from the original image, the pre-image, on to the final. That's the other stuff. I mean, again, you're just doing 2 transformations on the same graph instead of just 1. Let's see what we got here. You already see your grade?
No. So
That's probably the last person that's gonna go.
You so fair.
That one, so you actually did pretty well on that one. I thought was gonna touch free racing tags. That one was nice. Now I was not. Hey, real quick, I gotta mention this, and I forgot in second period, but this will be on the recording. So everybody, zip it right now, because this did not make me happy on the quiz. So you guys just did horrible on the parallel lines and transversals, like horrible. That was the easy thing on there. Like, there's only 2 options. I didn't like. Here, hold on. We said this over and over again, and one of them wasn't even difficult. That was not necessary. You can have him. Why anybody would want to interview him, I have no idea. All right, go. Why do you want to know? Yeah, you're gonna want to sit down for this, because I'm telling you what you all did wrong, which was a lot. On the quiz. Yeah, you all did. It was horrible. This was the easiest thing on the test. It's 2 questions. One of them was super easy, and a lot of people did okay on that. First of all, when I give you a drawing like that, what's the measure of angle 1?
90 degrees.
No.
Oh, wait, you mean 180?
Did I tell you? No, did I tell you it's 90 degrees?
No.
Half the class half the students. Blah, blah, blah equals 90. You don't know that's 90. I didn't tell you that's 90. You cannot assume that is 90 degrees. That was right there. It cost most of you that whole problem. Now it was a little trickier than something like this, because in something like this, you can pretty clearly tell, although I say you can, we didn't do very well on it, so maybe we can't. You should be able to clearly tell which angles are equal to each other just by looking at them. Like, I can't tell you exactly what the measure is. I can't assume a measure, but I can tell you that angle is less than 90. That angle is more than 90. And there's only 2 numbers. 4 of those angles are the same measure. The other 4 are the same measure as each other. Well, I'm not telling you how to solve it. You can go back and watch the video for that. If this angle here has an equation,
and then there's another equation anywhere in there, either I set them equal or what? If they're not equal, what? Only two options. This is why we didn't do very well, apparently. If they're not equal, what's the other option? They add the one. There was only two options. And again, for the one that was easier, if that's 130, do those look like they're the same size, those angles? Not even close, right? Again, this is less than 90. That is more than 90. So if they're not equal, there's only one other option. 130 plus 2x plus 4. I had almost nobody that was able to set up both equations. I don't know that I had any 100s on that. That should have been that was the gimme part of the test. Instead, all you're going to be doing retakes on that. Most of you doing tutoring on it because you couldn't even get a 40. Or you got barely a 40. So here's what I am going to do. Because it was only 2 questions, you can do 30 minutes of tutoring for that particular part of the test. And for the other part of the test, even though I broke it out into 2 grades, it's really just one topic. I just broke it out so that you could do an easy retake. I'm going to let you do 30 minutes on that. So for this entire quiz, you could actually do an hour just for this quiz, since it was a pretty short quiz. So you have the distance between a point and a line was 1 question. This was 2 questions. One of them was more, you do need to understand, like if it looks like that and you can't tell which ones are equal, you need to be able to figure out, like memorize basically which angles are congruent. We did alternate interior. So those were congruent, which means these are congruent. Alternate interior congruent. We said corresponding or congruent. So that was corresponding, or they were vertical. Like you could do it a bunch of different ways. If this is 2, that's 2. These are congruence marks if you don't remember what I'm making. So if there's 1 mark, then all those have the same measure. If there's 2 marks, all of those have the same measure. So that one's the same measure as that one, and that one, and that one. So we did alternate exterior, have the same. You need to go back and study. Like that's the only part that was hard, is you just had to study and remember which angles were automatically congruent to each other. Then you either set them equal to each other if you are given equations in those 2 angles, or if they're not equal to each other, then you add them up and equals 180 and you solve for x. Most people didn't even set it up right though to do the math. And a lot of people use 90, which you cannot assume there's a 90-degree angle in an image unless I give you a right angle symbol or something like that. So I don't know how to say you blew it on that. That was your gimme section of the test there. And most people didn't even get to a 60. So now you got a tutor. You have to take these into G2. So if you need to do tutoring, I will give you a blank one, but really I should be writing on there what you're tutoring for so they know what to teach you. But if you just need to grab one real quick one day, that's fine. If for some reason don't have one, I told them they could write on there like what you tutored on. All right, so yeah, that was it. Oh, I think I gotta do one thing. Yeah. So this is why you need to understand math. I get that question all the time. What are we doing? What are we doing? Because you don't know how to do the right things for your grade. Like instead of like trying to study something really, really, really hard that you may never get, and not spending as much time on something that you probably could get a 100 on, like that last topic. This quiz, even though it shows as 2, it's really just, I'm sorry, it shows as 3. It's really just 2 grades. I broke the second grade out into 2 grades, so it's really just 2. If you got a 100 and a 40, that's a 7. That's a C. So, and again, remember, you technically would be getting a 100, a 40, and a 40, but these make up one grade because if you look in the book, they're worth 2 points each instead of 4. So really, those other 2 grades are really just 1 grade. I just broke them out so I could give you a problem on this future quiz. So I would have really worked hard on those transversals, knowing that the other ones might be a little tricky, and then you would have gotten a 7. Although I will say a lot of people did pretty well on the parallel, or I'm sorry, yeah, are they parallel, perpendicular, and either? A lot of people did do pretty well on that.